You are fired. Get out of the office. I was set up by a younger manager and fired. When I left the office, I went home after accepting the dismissal. My daughter, happy to be home earlier than usual, jumped on me and said, "Yippee!" The next day, however, the panicked chairman came to the department. He yelled at the younger manager, "Without him, our company will go bankrupt." The chairman informed the younger manager as to why the company was in danger of going bankrupt. After that, he had to apologize to me. My name is Parker Hill, 35 years old. I have a wife and a daughter whom I love very much. My wife is Haley, 2 years younger than me, and my elementary school daughter is Lydia. We are an ordinary family, the kind of family you can find anywhere. What was different from other families was that I was usually away from home a lot. This made my daughter feel lonely. Even on my days off, I had to work, so the only times I saw her were while she was sleeping. It had become my daily routine to watch her sleep. Every time I saw her, I felt guilty. Fortunately, Haley understood my circumstances. She took care of Lydia and played with her, and she also took care of the house. However, she didn't seem to understand the policy at my workplace. "I can't believe that you have to work even on your days off. But that's how much they depend on you." That was what she was thinking, but I wasn't sure whether they really relied on me. It was because I worked for a younger boss who was recruited based on his connections. His name was Nicholas Mitchell. He was a self-proclaimed elite and the newly appointed department manager. As previously said, he was picked as department manager due to his ties. He was favored by the previous manager and was chosen as the next manager after promoting himself. The former department manager said something mysterious such as, "Having a young person as a department boss will enhance the mood throughout the company." With that, he left the company. I wondered if that was a good idea. However, because Mr. Carter, the company's CEO, had approved it, all of the staff were forced to accept. I tried to convince myself that there was no need to compare myself to Nicholas. But not only he did not do his own work, but he assigned that work to us employees. The employees who could not tolerate such a manager protested to Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, however, did not take their concerns seriously, stating that Nicholas had only recently been chosen as department manager and had a lot to learn. So the employees eventually quit the company. "We can now automatically remove employees who cannot keep up with me." Even when such a situation continued, Nicholas wasn't worried and remained in the position of the manager. As you can imagine, I too realized that the behavior of Nicholas was too much. We were understaffed and I had to work even on holidays. It was also having a bad impact on my personal life. I had a danger signal ringing in my mind. I knew that I could not let things continue as they were. But I could do nothing about it. A month passed. On the other hand, I was improving my performance one after another. "Well done, Parker. I'm pleased with you for landing contracts with those huge companies. You should all follow Parker's example and do your best." I was praised by Mr. Carter for getting contracts with major corporations. It wasn't all bad for me. I was able to do this thanks to the support of my family. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I will continue to do my best in the future." I was honestly happy and shook Mr. Carter's hand. Perhaps my humble attitude caused good impression on Mr. Carter. "Why don't we go for a drink sometime?" He invited me for a drink. I didn't feel very comfortable with Mr. Carter because he once sided with Nicholas. But I agreed to accompany him since I knew I couldn't refuse to go out for a drink with him. Mr. Carter had no way of knowing that I was thinking like that. He was in a good mood and started to set a date and time. I was unaware of the harsh stare of someone who did not think highly of me. and Mr. Carter's opinion of me improved. Later that day, I attended a drinking party with Mr. Carter. I proceeded to secure contracts with clients and contribute to the company. However, I had no idea that I would fall into a terrible trap.
Hey, I can't find the documents I left here.
One day, I went to work as usual. I heard Nicholas sounding impatient. The voice was quite loud, and all the employees turned around. It seemed that he was frantically searching for something.
What is it, Nicholas?
Because Nicholas, who usually did nothing, was making a fuss. One of the employees walked up to him fearfully and spoke to him.
It's that. The documents that were in my desk drawer is missing. I don't know who stole them. Wait a minute.
Nicholas, perhaps coming up with someone in mind, or perhaps having a flash of inspiration, suddenly got up from his chair and headed for the time card. Then he started checking each person's time card one by one. When he saw one person's time card, he held it up with all his might.
Parker, you stole my files, didn't you?
Huh? I was surprised to be suddenly named by Nicholas. Nicholas didn't care about my reaction and approached me. He then showed me 2 time cards.
This one is my time card and the others is yours. Look closely. Yesterday, we completed our overtime job at the same time.
I looked at the time cards he showed me. We did, in fact, finish working overtime at the same. But Nicholas never worked overtime. Did he happen to be working that day? It does look like we left work at the same time of day. But what in the world does this have to do with your documents?
Don't play dumb. You and I were the only ones who worked overtime that day. Therefore, you were the only one who could have stolen my documents.
Nicholas, with his index finger pointing at me, told me that I was the only person who could have stolen his things. It appeared to be a well-constructed theory, and I was starting to be concerned. With only little evidence, I thought it was premature to accuse me of being the culprit. By the way, what types of materials are missing?
What?
Because he didn't expect me to ask back, Nicholas sounded dumbfounded.
They are documents for work. What else could they be?
In other words, you can't answer me about the contents, can you? Because you didn't usually work overtime. So I'm sure there is no way you could have known the contents, right? I thought I was being rude to Nicholas, but I had to tell him at the moment. I felt malice from him, so I had to say it. Then, Nicholas's face turned bright red and he became angry.
How dare you talk to me like that? I'm your boss.
You are being extremely rude. That's exactly what I want to say to you. I didn't even steal any of your materials, but you're treating me like I'm the culprit as if I stole them. And by doing so, you're interfering with my work.
What the hell did you just say?
I wasn't sure if he didn't like me talking back to him, but he was even more upset with me. On the other hand, I couldn't just admit something I hadn't done, so I kept talking. What type of manager are you if you can't tell me what's in a single document? Everyone is doing the work you aren't doing.
What's wrong with that? That's your job, right? What kind of staff are you if you can't even support your boss?
He kept making excuses, so I figured there was no use in arguing with him. I got emotional when I got to this point, and my tone became a little rough. Perhaps he saw this and he smirked and opened his mouth again.
I'm much more wary of you for taking this so seriously. It's obvious from your time card that you stole the documents. You can't change that fact. You are fired. Get out of the office.
I couldn't tell who was more pissed off. Nicholas also raised his voice and once again treated me like I was the culprit. He also told me that I was fired. I didn't care and I decided to do as he wanted. I silently went to my desk, took out a sheet of paper, and started writing. Nicholas looked at me with narrowed eyes as I suddenly started writing something. Parker, what are you doing? Well, everyone was looking at me in amazement. After I finished writing, I walked up to Nicholas with the paper and handed it him. Nicholas received it, and with a dubious look on his face, and read the words on the paper.
Is this a resignation letter?
Yes, after what Nicholas has said to me so far, I decided to resign and wrote a resignation notice. It was a simple one, but I submitted it, because I did not want to be treated as a criminal even though I was innocent. I have not done what you said I did, so I wish to resign gracefully. It's been a pleasure working with you all.
That's really graceful, I understand. I'll submit this as a notice of resignation to Mr. Carter on your behalf. Please feel free to resign.
The office was buzzing with excitement when they saw me handing out the resignation letter. And Nicholas was smiling triumphantly. I didn't care, and I began to pack up my things. Parker, wait a minute, please. My staff rushed to me in a panic. They tried to stop me as I was leaving the office. If you leave, our business partners won't be happy. Please reconsider it. I felt guilty when I saw my staff speaking anxiously, but I slowly shook my head. Even if I'm not here, you guys will be fine. Besides, I have to punish Nicholas a little. With these words, I left the company. Nicholas was smiling even more triumphantly as he saw me off. Oh, hey, you're home. What's wrong with you today? Are you not feeling well and came home early? When I returned home after that, Haley, wondering why I came home earlier than usual, asked me. No, it's not that. I'm feeling sick. Actually, I quit my job. What? What do you mean? Haley seemed to be very surprised. So I explained the reason why I quit the company. Haley listened to everything I said. So that's what this was all about, she murmured. Daddy, did you finish work earlier today? Lydia poked her head out from the second floor. She dashed towards me as soon as she noticed me arriving home early. Then her face broke into a happy smile. Hey, Daddy! She greeted me. I'm home, Lydia. To be honest, I hate to tell you this, but I quit my job. That's why I came home early. I thought it was dreadful to discuss my resignation with my daughter, who was in elementary school. Lydia, contrary to my expectations, bounced up and down again, this time with a cheerful expression. Seriously? But I am happy. You came home early like this, and I'm sure there are many other jobs, right? So I'm sure you'll be fine with your next job, Daddy. Even though she was in elementary school, she uttered such encouraging words that impacted me. At the moment, I realized that my family would never abandon me. Lydia is right. First of all, you've worked so hard, so you should take some time off. Haley, Lydia, thank you. Haley and Lydia smiled when they saw me smiling. I took them at their word and spent the rest of the day relaxing. The next day, Mr. Campbell, the chairman, came to our department panicking. With my resignation letter in his hand, which he had just received from Mr. Carter, he was looking for Nicholas.
Where is Nicholas?
What? He was in the office until a few minutes ago. Nicholas was nowhere to be seen in the department, so Mr. Campbell asked one of the staff. The staff noticed that Nicholas wasn't there too.
I have something important to tell him. Find him as soon as possible.
Okay, I understand. Mr. Campbell's panicked order brought the employees rushing to find Nicholas. Nicholas, there you are! Mr. Campbell wants to see you.
What? Mr. Campbell?
A few minutes later, Nicholas was discovered calmly sipping a cup of coffee in the break room. I have no idea how he took the staff's word, but Nicholas grinned.
Does he want to talk to me about making me the CEO or something?
No, he only said he had something important to talk about. Nicholas, who had misinterpreted the scenario, twinkled as he noticed the workers slurring their words and providing unclear answers.
I'm sure he's going to talk about my promotion.
That's what he assumed. Anyway, please come back to the office.
Okay, I'll be there right now.
After Nicholas finished the coffee he was drinking, he followed the staff who walked ahead of him. When he got at the department a little time later, he spotted Mr. Campbell waiting for him and approached him.
Mr. Campbell, thank you for waiting. I'm back.
Mr. Campbell noticed Nicholas' joyful voice and turned around as quickly as he could. When he saw Nicholas, he angrily walked up to him and shouted,
Nicholas, what have you done?
Excuse me, what are you talking about? Are you going to talk about my promotion? Even though Mr. Campbell was voicing his anger, Nicholas, who couldn't even read between the lines, was grinning. He still misunderstood that Mr. Campbell was going to talk about his promotion. Mr. Campbell was even more outraged by this attitude of Nicholas.
Promotion? What on earth are you talking about? On the contrary, our company is on the verge of bankruptcy as a result of your actions.
Huh? Bankrupt? May I ask what you are talking about? Nicholas showed his impatience at their unexpected reply. It seems that he has finally grasped the situation. Mr. Campbell showed Nicholas the resignation notice I submitted to him, and he told Nicholas,
I heard that you fired Parker yesterday without permission, and you accepted his resignation letter.
Oh, about that. But listen to me, Mr. Campbell. Parker stole my documents, and yet he didn't admit it at all.
What are you talking about? You never do your job. And yet I heard you saying that Parker stole your materials.
Before Nicholas returned to the office, Mr. Campbell had interviewed the staff about his work. So that's what he said to Nicholas. Nicholas glared at the staff, thinking that they had told on him.
That's not true at all.
He didn't admit it.
I'm sure that those who are jealous of me are saying that. I am not doing my job properly. I am doing my job fine. At this point, it doesn't matter if you are doing your job or not. It's about Parker. Get him back here. Without him, our company will go bankrupt.
In order to corner Nicholas, Mr. Campbell gave orders. However, Nicholas was totally opposed to bringing me back.
Why? He alone can't bankrupt the company. You are exaggerating too much. We should be glad that horrible guy quit on his own. It really seems like you weren't doing your job at all. If you've ever worked with him, I'm sure you know how capable he is.
Capable? I'm the one who's capable.
It's ridiculous to say that a regular employee is better than the department boss.
An argument developed between Mr. Campbell and Nicholas. While the employees who were watching were horrified, Mr. Campbell further told him,
That's enough. Being the department manager doesn't make you capable. What matters is how much you contribute to the company.
Nicholas cowered automatically as he heard Mr. Campbell's first angry outburst of the day. Despite this, Mr. Campbell continued to speak.
He not only landed contracts with various clients, Parker additionally won their trust in our company due to his kindness and professionalism. However, when a number of clients learned about his unfair dismissal, they started calling us to complain.
Mr. Campbell came to work at the company as usual. He said he received phone calls from our clients. I heard that Parker, who was in charge of our business deal, has been unfairly dismissed. What is going on in your company? They started to inform Mr. Campbell. He tried to convince them to wait by saying,
We are confirming the details. Could you give me some time, please?
And that was why he visited Nicholas. However, since I had already submitted my resignation notice and had not come to work, to be honest, Mr. Campbell was troubled. Yes, I was the one who made this happen. I had to submit my resignation notice, and inevitably, I had to talk to my business partners that I was quitting the company. After spending some quality time with my family, I called my business partners. Of course, they were not convinced and asked me to tell them why I was leaving. I told them that I had no choice but to leave the company under the direction of Nicholas. Then,
I will call Mr. Campbell tomorrow and try to persuade him. So I hope you won't quit.
They told me so I had no other choice but to wait. After that, the clients called Mr. Campbell to complain. That's what happened. Nicholas, who had no way of knowing this, was drinking a cup of coffee peacefully. After being reprimanded repeatedly by Mr. Campbell, he finally seemed to understand the gravity of the situation.
Then, is the company really going to go bankrupt? I'm sure you're going to be in trouble if the company goes bankrupt. Do you want to be thrown out suddenly and end up on the street? Forget it. You just apologize to Parker and convince him to come back.
In the end, Mr. Campbell yelled at him. Nicholas screamed and hurriedly followed Mr. Campbell's instructions. He left the company for my home. I'm terribly sorry for what I did. After that, Nicholas suddenly visited my house. He apologized to me many times. Nicholas said. He was fully informed by Mr. Campbell and came to apologize. But to be honest, I wasn't pleased with simply being apologized to. So? Did you come here to apologize after all this time because you were afraid of ending up on the street after the company goes bankrupt?
No, that's not true.
I'm not sure I can trust you. I looked at him with suspicion as he hurriedly denied it. Unfortunately, he was a person who normally just did things for himself. It didn't seem like a sincere apology. Hello? Then, as we were talking at the entrance, Lydia appeared from nowhere, cheerfully greeting Nicholas.
Hello?
Nicholas was surprised by her sudden appearance. He had been apologizing to me until that moment, but he greeted Lydia with a puzzled look on his face.
I knew you were married, but I had no idea that you had such a pretty child.
Why are you looking so surprised? When Nicholas saw Lydia, he spoke as if he had met an angel. I couldn't help but react to Nicholas's comment. But since I was talking with Nicholas about work, even though I felt bad for Lydia, I quickly urged her to go back to her room. Lydia, I'm speaking with someone from work. Go to the living room. While Lydia was smiling at Nicholas, I asked her to go back to the living room. But Lydia didn't care and talked to Nicholas. I heard a little about what you and Dad were talking about. Since you were the department manager, you are superior to my dad, right? But did you do something bad? And is that why you were here to apologize to my daddy?
You are right.
Nicholas answered Lydia's question honestly, but he looked uncomfortable. However, Lydia did not care and continued her words further. Well, I see. Anyway, I've heard that many supervisors these days refuse to apologize even when they've done something wrong. And yet, you are a good person who can apologize immediately even if you did something wrong. Lydia said so with a big smile on her face. However, according to what I heard, he didn't come here to apologize right away. So what Lydia said was somewhat different. However, I was touched by her words. It seemed the same for Nicholas, who was looking at Lydia in surprise. He was stunned for a while. It is true that there are many adults who do not apologize. Among them, an adult who can apologize may be valuable. When I thought about it, before I knew it, I lost my anger towards Nicholas. I suppose kids are more mature than grown-ups, I said to Nicholas with a troubled smile. Looking back, when I wrote my resignation letter, I wrote it, letting my emotions get the better of me. I felt ashamed of myself for not being more mature. When my head cooled down, I took another look at Lydia. She was still smiling. I thought that maybe Lydia would like it better if Nicholas and I were on good terms. I opened my mouth again. In light of Lydia's words, I accept your apology. It seems I have some faults too, so I'm going back to the office. But if the same things happen again, there will be no next time.
Of course. Thank you very much, Parker. And thank you so much, Lydia.
When I forgave him, Nicholas cried uncharacteristically. I could see that he was quite sorry. I and Lydia consoled him for a while. The next day, after persuasion by Nicholas, Mr. Campbell, and their clients, my dismissal was withdrawn. On the other hand, upon further investigation, Nicholas admitted that he had lied about the stolen documents. He made up the documents that were never there in the first place, and called me a culprit for having stolen them. The reason why he did this was because he couldn't accept the fact that I was favored by Mr. Carter and Mr. Campbell. The expectant eyes that used to be directed at him were not directed at me, even though he was a department manager. He thought that one day he would lose the position of the head of the department to me. Even though I forgave him, the company took this matter very seriously and ordered him to be demoted. He was still young, so they also took that into consideration. As a countermeasure, the company would no longer promote young employees to positions like department manager unless there is a valid reason. Nicholas was demoted and a new department manager was assigned. I returned to work and a peaceful life came back to me. I still have a good relationship with my clients. As usual, I worked hard at my job, trying to be kind and courteous. On the other hand, I thought that Nicholas was completely depressed after this demotion. But he had started to work harder than when he was a department manager. Sometimes he did odd jobs, and other times he appeared to be contemplating quietly in front of his computer. I could tell that he was working hard and seemed to have changed his mind. I am sure that if he continues his efforts, he will be able to bring many contracts to our company someday. I smiled as I thought about it. I hope to have a lovely child like Lydia someday. So, I'm going to work hard and look for someone who would marry me. Not only did he become more enthusiastic about his work after meeting Lydia, but it looks like he is also motivated to get married with that power. I laughed a little, but I was glad to hear that he has grown to love children. It won't be long before he is blessed with a good wife and has a child of his own. Later, when I came home from work, Lydia, who seemed to have just returned from school, hugged me. "Hey, Dad, you did really come early from work today?" I usually came home when Lydia was already asleep. She exploded her joy that I was able to come home around evening. "That's right, since the ex-manager started working hard. It looks like my work has calmed down." "Wow, so Nicholas is doing great." Lydia, who had learned Nicholas's name, complimented him by saying so. Since then, Nicholas has never assigned his job to his staff. He started to do his own work. Finally, we were able to get out of the office on time. I'm so happy now, because I can see Lydia when she's still awake.